Hey, good morning. How y'all doing? It is Redbeard. It's a damn fine day to talk about a book, and today we're here for a fantasy review. We're going to talk about A Clash of Kings by George R. R. Martin. This is the second book in the five-book series. Now, look, these are hard to review, and I did a horrible job coming on here and talking about a Game of Thrones, so I'm just going to roll with that and accept that, and I guess live in that I'm not good at reviewing fantasy books. They are big and broad and they have tons of character arcs. Example, I talked about a Game of Thrones and I don't think I even mentioned Daenerys Targaryen. There's going to be some assumption here that you know a little bit about this series, that you've seen some of the TV show, that you at least know some of the names, because I can't do it. I mean, I can't explain, like if I was to say that, well, in this book Arya is taken to Harrenhal and she's secretly in the service of Tywin Lannister. um I'm not I mean I'm expecting, I guess, that maybe you know who Arya Stark is, or maybe Harrenhal rings a bell, or maybe you know what I'm saying. I mean, I am here accepting the fact that I cannot review these books very well, but that I'm not that's what I do here. I read a book, I come here and talk about it, and then, only then, and actually, it'll go a step further. Are you ready for the way my brain works around books? I get a book, I read a book, I have to talk about it, I have to keep it in a stack with all the other books that I read in that month. Then at the end of the month, I have to rank those books and do like an end of the month, and then and only then can I put them alphabetically where they go in the shelves. So I have to talk about it. I just have to. And if you're here and this train wreck of a review hasn't pulled you in, that was my goal. No, I'm kidding. And if you feel like it's time to go, I get that as well. So this book for me, not as enjoyable as the first book, and I get it. We've got storylines to advance. We've got other things going on. I mean, I think what I have realized, and I always knew this, from watching the show. Yeah, okay, let me step aside. I think that's a lot of my problem. I've seen the show all the way through twice. And again, I read half of this book maybe 5 years ago, but that's as far as I got. I read the first book, I read half of the second book, and that was it. Now I'm going through a reread. I have read A Game of Thrones just last month, and I've now done A Clash of Kings. I hate doing that because you can't even really see that. I almost feel like I have to hold it sideways. Just done Clash of Kings, and and I'm trying to get through all five of them. And again, I got this nice little, I don't know if it's real leather or faux leather, but it's nice little box set of these like floppy leather bound copies of this, and I wanted to read them because on another note of my OCD bibliomania, if it's on these shelves, and these are right over there, but if it's on these shelves, it's only on these shelves if I've read it. So I wanted to read them, even though it's a five book, probably 5,000 page roughly series that is unfinished. Now, I want to be able to say that I've read these books. So back to A Clash of Kings. I liked it a lot less, and I think it's because of the character arcs that were really focused on in this one. I mean, again, I think I'm a Stark guy, and when I say I'm a Stark guy, I'm a Arya Stark, Sansa Stark, um, Jon Snow, maybe Catelyn Stark. Uh, to be honest with you, like even Bran's story, I think I don't think I'm alone in this, but Bran's story kind of slogs for me. But when we go off on other characters, like even Daenerys, because Daenerys, while she's hugely important to the storyline, and while I'm a fan of Daenerys and her storyline, like it feels like almost abstract. And I know we got to know what's going on, but it feels, I don't want to say unimportant, but that's the word that comes to mind because it is important, but it feels unimportant until she gets to Westeros, until she gets to, the Seven Kingdoms, and until she crosses the Narrow Sea, or I, don't, I think it's the Narrow Sea. This one, look, we open with Stannis. Well, we open with a chapter again. These chapters are by character. So you've got Tyrion chapters. I also really enjoy Tyrion stuff, but you've got Tyrion chapters. You've got again Arya, Sansa, but this one you've got chapters about Sir Davos, and we spend like the opening like it's a lot. Maybe it's 50 pages, maybe it's not. It feels like a lot. The opening of this book was Sir Davos, and through Sir Davos, what we're really getting is Stannis Baratheon's story. So remember at the end of book one, um, Robert Baratheon is dead. The king is dead. He wanted Ned Stark to kind of rule until his son came of age, Joffrey Baratheon. Joffrey Baratheon beheaded Ned Stark, and Joffrey is the king. But we all know, or most people know, or Joffrey doesn't really have, without going into, doesn't have a, a real claim to the throne, even though he's supposedly Robert's son, because he's not. He's not Robert's son. You probably knew that. But spoiler, sorry. But so Stannis Baratheon, it has a claim to the throne, and Renly, which I don't really understand why, because Renly's the youngest of Robert's brothers, also has a claim to the throne. So Stannis is building an army. Renly's building an army, and they're kind of warring over who is going to go and conquer King's Landing, whatever. All the while, Robb Stark has named himself King of the North and is making his way south to whatever. You get what I'm saying? So there's a lot of stuff going on, and really a lot of it feels just like story advancement and not too climactual. Is that a word? Not too anyway. But we're meeting Brienne of Tarth. Enjoy her character. Again, we're following Catelyn as she goes um, to talk with Renly about what's going on. Jaime Lannister has been captured. So all this is going on. Arya's, been questing north with Thorin, I think, maybe not Thorin, Yoren, maybe. Anyway, to go to the wall, under the guise that she's a boy and not a girl. They're attacked, and she's taken captive and goes into service of Tywin Lannister at Harrenhal. So all this is going on. Theon has gone back to back to, I don't know, back to the Greyjoy place, Pike. Anyway, he's gone back there to convince his father to come to the aid of Robb Stark in this war, and in doing so, does the complete opposite, and basically goes gets a ship and goes and attacks and takes over Winterfell. He under false pretense kills Bran and Rickon Stark, and doesn't really kill him. Kills like the Miller's sons or something like that. Which I saw a weird side note, like a weird article that those might actually be his children, Theon's children. Google that. Anyway, so Theon's a dickhead now, right? So all this is going on. So we kind of end at this place where Roose Bolton's people have, who are supposedly on the side of the Starks. Again, if you know much about the story, you know different, but have kind of they're taking Theon back, and again, we're going to. All that was a bit like I kind of forgot the way it played out in the show, but all of that was a bit confusing because I didn't remember that Reek was um, Bolton. It was Reek, and we know that Theon becomes. I'm not going to go into that, but anyway, so Renly Baratheon is killed by a shadow demon created by Stannis slash Melisandre, and the big kind of culmination of this thing is the battle at the Blackwater where Tyrion defends King's Landing, defends the Red Keep or whatever from a sea attack, and yeah, there's just a lot going on. But for me, I think. See, I didn't even see. I went all through this again. I didn't really say anything about Daenerys. I mean, her story is progressing. She's still not here, and she hasn't raised her army yet. I think she's in a better situation than she was at the tail end of the first book. But and Jon Snow, he's on the wall. He's still dealing with hey, my father was killed. I need but Are you're a man of the night's watch? You know that was an oath. Blah blah blah. You know they behead oath breakers, and he chooses to stay. But again, his story. We do meet Egret. Is that how you say it? Again, one of my favorite characters from the show. You know nothing, Jon Snow, and all that. We do meet her, but minimally, I want to say again, this is a long book, and a lot of shit happens, and I read it over the course of weeks. Um, but yeah, that's kind of it. So for me, this book, 3 stars. Like it less than Game of Thrones. Of course, I mean, I love the lore. I love the characters. I love the map. I love the setting. I love the multiple castles and keeps and all that stuff, and the geography and the Erie. I love this. I love all that stuff. So, but definitely a less enjoyable read, a little bit longer read than a Game of Thrones. And I'm sorry for the dog barking. That is the life that I live. She is a gigantic white Great Pyrenees that I wanted to name Ghost, but that didn't happen. We had a boy that passed away, Great Pyrenees, that was Cotton. So this dog is Georgia, and my wife, the professor, is from Georgia. But Game of Thrones, A Clash of Kings, Book Two, three 3 to 3.5 stars for me. I'm going to be getting into book 3 this month and coming back and talking about that. I appreciate you. I thank you for being here. And I hope you're enjoying all your books as much as I am. If not, you're reading the wrong damn books.